It started like any other quiet weekend in our neighborhood, calm, familiar, and safe. But all that changed in an instant. My daughter, who uses a wheelchair, was simply enjoying some fresh air on our front porch when out of nowhere, chaos erupted. A woman from our HOA, someone we've had problems with before, did something none of us could have ever imagined. She pulled a gun. Yes, a gun, and she actually fired it. I'm a retired military sniper. I've spent years protecting people in the most intense situations you can think of, but nothing prepared me for what happened in my own front yard. This wasn't just about an angry neighbor. This was a direct threat to my child, my world. We had run-ins with this HOA Karen before, petty complaints, nasty notes, yelling across the fence. But this crossed every line. I didn't react the way I was trained to. I reacted the way any father would. Thankfully, no one was hurt, but what came next shocked even the local authorities. Her weapon was seized, and now there's a full investigation underway. This story isn't just about conflict, it's about standing up, protecting your family, and what happens when someone finally goes too far. But the wildest part, that came asterisk after asterisk, the police showed up. When the police arrived, they treated the situation seriously, but not as urgently as I expected. It was almost like they didn't believe it could have happened the way I said. I could see it in their faces. Doubt. A neighbor shooting at a disabled child. In a quiet HOA neighborhood, it sounded too extreme. But I had security footage, and my daughter's panicked cries were still echoing in my head. I kept my cool, but inside I was boiling. The woman, let's just call her Karen for now, acted like she was a victim. She claimed she felt threatened by a girl in a wheelchair. That's how twisted this got. She started throwing out wild accusations, saying we violated HOA rules, saying we were aggressive, just by existing peacefully in our own home. This wasn't about rules, it was personal. Over the last few months, she'd been escalating things. Little jabs here and there. Complaints about how we parked. Warnings about my daughter's equipment being an eyesore. She even once threatened to get us fined for letting her take up space on the porch. Yeah, that's the kind of energy we were dealing with. But what the police discovered inside her home that day made things even more complicated and way more dangerous than anyone expected. While officers were questioning Karen outside, another unit entered her house with her permission. That's when things started getting weird. One officer stepped back out, radioed something in, and within minutes, another car pulled up. Plainclothes, serious faces. They wouldn't say much, but I overheard words like stockpile, unregistered, and mental health concerns. That's when I knew this wasn't just a neighbor dispute anymore. This was bigger. Meanwhile, neighbors started gathering. Some whispered, others just stared. A few even defended Karen, saying she was always polite and never the type to cause trouble. But they didn't see what we'd seen. They didn't hear the way she spoke to my daughter when no one else was around. The subtle threats, the looks, the comments laced with bitterness every time she passed our house. One neighbor, Mrs. Gaines, quietly pulled me aside. She'd lived on this block for over 20 years and told me she'd seen this kind of behavior from Karen before, but it was always dismissed. She knows how to play innocent when it counts, she said. That stuck with me. And then there was something else. The HOA president suddenly stopped responding to emails and calls about the incident. No statements, no support, just silence. That's when it hit me. Maybe this wasn't just Karen acting alone. Maybe there were people helping her stay protected. A few days after the incident, things in the neighborhood got quiet. Too quiet. No lawnmowers, no kids playing, no small talk across fences. It was like everyone was holding their breath. We kept our security cameras running 24/7. I didn't trust anyone at that point, not after what we'd been through, and especially not after Karen somehow came back home just 48 hours later. No charges, no explanation, just back like nothing happened. That's when I started digging deeper. I requested HOA meeting notes, went through complaint records, and even talked to a friend who used to be in law enforcement. What I found didn't sit right. Karen wasn't just a random neighbor with issues. She had personal ties with a few key HOA board members. One of them, her cousin. Another, used to work with her at a local business years ago. So when I thought the HOA was ignoring us, turns out they were probably covering for her all along. Then things escalated again. We got a notice taped to our door, a violation warning, claiming we were creating a hostile environment in the neighborhood. No mention of the shooting, no mention of the trauma, just a threat of fines and legal action if we continued causing problems. That same night, we caught something on our security footage that made my blood run cold. Someone was outside our fence, watching, not moving, just standing there, and it wasn't Karen. I froze when I saw the figure on the camera, tall, hood up, just standing there behind our fence under the cover of darkness. They didn't try to break in or move closer. They just stood there, watching. I didn't recognize the shape, the posture, nothing familiar. It wasn't Karen. I was sure of that. I reviewed the footage frame by frame, but the image was just clear enough to be disturbing and too blurry to be useful. I reported it, of course, but by the time the police arrived, the person was long gone. And just like before, the response felt hollow, more like a checklist than real concern. They took the report, asked a few questions, and left. No follow-up, no patrols, nothing. That's when the second twist hit. A neighbor, someone I barely spoke to before, Alan, who lives 3 houses down, came by the next day. He looked nervous, like he'd wrestled with himself before even walking up. He said he'd seen something a few nights ago, a man he didn't recognize leaving Karen's house late, carrying what looked like a locked case. Not a briefcase, not a toolbox, something long, something heavy. Alan didn't want to get involved until he saw that same man near his asterisk yard the night we saw the figure. Now I was sure this wasn't about the HOA anymore. This was bigger than Karen. After Alan came forward, I knew I had to act fast. I pulled every string I could, contacted a retired buddy from the service who now works private security. Within a day, we had additional cameras set up, motion detectors installed, and a full sweep of our property done. That same night, we caught the mystery man again, but this time we were ready. He approached from the side yard, avoiding the main gate, dressed in all black. As soon as he crossed the motion line, footlights snapped on, alarms triggered, and I stepped out, calmly but ready. He froze, panicked, and bolted, but not before the cameras got a full, clear shot of his face. It wasn't a random stranger. It was one of the HOA board members. He was the one who had been backing Karen in the background, silencing complaints, pushing fake violations, and pulling strings to protect her. We handed everything over, the footage, statements, the full timeline, to a lawyer and then to the local news. Once the story went public, the pressure exploded. Karen was taken in again, this time for real. The board member resigned within hours. The HOA itself was placed under review. But here's the twist. As the investigation expanded, they found records of similar complaints from other neighborhoods. Karen had moved multiple times, always with support from this same man. Turns out, we weren't the first family she targeted, just the first to fight back. After everything came to light, the neighborhood slowly began to shift. People who once stayed quiet started speaking up. Families from past neighborhoods reached out, sharing their own horror stories, how Karen had used fear, lies, and HOA power to bully them into silence. But this time, she didn't get away with it. Charges were filed, the HOA leadership was completely restructured, and new rules were put in place to prevent abuse of authority. My daughter is safe, and that's what matters most. She's still shaken, of course. We all are, but we're healing together. The community, too, seems different now. Warmer, more connected. Neighbors who used to look away now wave, check in, ask if we need anything. It's strange how something so dark brought a new kind of light. This whole situation reminded me that standing your ground isn't just about strength, it's about knowing when to speak up, when to ask for help, and when to protect what matters most. We didn't start this fight, but we ended it with truth, not revenge. So if you're ever dealing with a Karen in your life, don't stay silent. Document everything, protect your peace, and never let fear write your story.